We're back. Good morning, everybody. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and I really want to start by saying I hope that spring break was restful for you. I heard from a lot of you in the survey that you really needed it. I think it's super funny. Like spring break when you're staying home and you've been home already is a little hilarious, but I share your sense that like it was really good to have a reset. And before I say anything else, just huge props to you all for like coming back. Almost all of you've responded to the survey that I sent out, and I've gotten like so many texts from you on Remind and elsewhere, and I'm really glad you guys are doing all right. It's good to be back from working period 4. All right, introducing a new plant today. This is a really weird one. It's like kind of fuzzy. I don't really get its deal. And a book by my friend and mentor, Alan Stewart, Shakespeare's Letters. We'll get back to Shakespeare a little bit later in the video, believe it or not. But the other thing I wanted to do right away when we start off is just give some shout outs to students. I asked you in the survey what you wanted to say to your classmates. And because I know maybe you're texting all the time, but I know we're not in a physical class, so I just wanted to like actually share some of that with you. These aren't by names, but a few of the things that you had to say to each other were either really funny or very nice. A lot of you had to say that you just miss each other. I miss you guys, sad face. I miss everyone. I hope we could see each other and have a regular sit-down class before 11th grade ends. Yeah, many of you had this sort of hilarious statement that like you thought school was bad before, but now you want it back. Always want what you can't have. I want to see outside and see my friends, even in a classroom. Take care, stay safe. Alex Riceland clearly wants everybody to join the track team still. Alex, shout out to you. I feel you. I'm running outside as much as I can. Hopefully this thing will pass because I don't want to be inside for the whole summer. Thank you for your time. You're welcome. I don't know who wrote that, but I appreciate that. Class, greetings to you all. I hope everyone is safe and working hard, although it might be a bit boring having nothing to do after finishing work. So try something new if you haven't. For now, there's time. That's really good advice. I don't know who wrote that either, but whoever you are, that's wise. Yeah, try something new. Hello, sad face. I miss the way things used to be, but my advice is to online shop till you drop. Well, okay. Sure, if you can. Be safe and wash your hands. That's correct. I don't know who that was either, but that's a great thing. And a lot of you are just trying to connect with each other, asking how you are. In all seriousness, guys, I mean, I hope you're in touch and texting each other, but check in on each other. I think it's really important to be good to your friends during this time if you can. So check in, be kind. Oh, the last one, finally. I will never complain about school again. This quarantine made me realize that although times were difficult, we had it easy compared to now. Kind of true. But I hope you guys are in general all right, and thanks for sharing a lot of that. I want to introduce to you today a totally new unit. We are ditching Dante. So to the person who said, Dante ain't it, fine. In this context, I agree with you. I don't think this is we can stick with Dante and still have it be productive. So we are off that. We are on to Eric Walrond's Tropic Death. I'm going to link an image to that in the like near this video in Google Classroom. But it's a text set in the Caribbean, in Barbados and Panama and other areas around the Caribbean, and a series of short stories that are pseudo-autobiographical. In other words, Eric Walrond had some of these experiences and invents others, but they're all centered around the experience of somebody in the early 20th century living in the Caribbean but being written from a man who then lives in New York. Walrond was born in British Guiana, which is, the South America, but the very northeastern area. Now it's just Guyana. And he lived in Panama for a while, lived in Barbados for a while, and wrote this series of short stories during the Harlem Renaissance in 1926, when he was just 28. And it's the only book he ever wrote. but it's a really extraordinary text. And I think for those of you, especially for those of you who have roots in the Caribbean or who grew up there yourselves, I am really excited to hear what you think about this text. A lot of it is dark, but it's also really honest, and it is written in the kind of the voice of this of like the actual voice of people from the Caribbean. So you may find yourself reading it out loud and recognizing certain inflections or certain ways that the characters talk. I'm going to read to you just a little bit from the introduction of the book to give you an idea of not just what I've said it's about, but what, from a sort of formal direction, it's about. And I'm going to ask you to read the rest of this introduction for Saturday, and I will be giving you a quiz on the introduction that's due by Saturday. So listen carefully and then read the rest on your own. When Eric Derwent Walrond arrived in New York City from Panama on June 30th, 1918, he was no ordinary immigrant. Although only 19 years old, he already embodied a dynamic Caribbean cosmopolitanism that few of his fellow migrants could match, as well as a developing literary sense that would set him apart from most of his contemporaries. These two major qualities would combine to remarkable effect in 1926, when the prestigious New York publisher Bonney and Liverite brought out Tropic Death. This volume of stories would be one of the outstanding works of fiction of the so-called Harlem Renaissance, as well as an artistic achievement that deserves even wider acclaim. Walrond was born in 1898 in British Guiana. His parents were immigrants from Barbados in the West Indies. In his early years, Walrond barely knew his father. Like thousands of other people from all over the Caribbean, his father had gone to the Canal Zone in Panama, lured by the money flowing from the vast American-led construction project in 1914 that would link the Caribbean Sea to the Pacific Ocean. In 1906, after a fire burned down much of the capital of British Guiana, Walrond left with his mother to live in Barbados. 5 years later, they moved from Barbados to Panama to rejoin his father. Eric Walrond stayed there until he was in his 20th year when he headed for New York. In Panama, Walrond became fluent in Spanish. Drawn to writing, he began to work as a cub reporter for a Panama newspaper, and a new world opened for him. The Canal Zone was the focal point of the wide variety of factors and forces that make up the Caribbean experience. While it offered poor blacks a way to make money, it also stood as a symbol of the often crude exploitation by North American and European interest, and by whites in general. But black and brown people hardly made up a solid cultural identity. They were a competitive, volatile amalgam of insular loyalties, further complicated by tensions based on shadings of skin color and divisions according to money, class, education, and religion, among other considerations. All of these factors would breathe life and meaning into Tropic Death. That's the beginning of the introduction, and I want to paraphrase a little bit of what that last paragraph has to say. This new unit that we're doing, now that we've moved off of Dante, is about the construction of a Caribbean identity. I'm just calling this, I'm calling it like creation, or I'm calling it Caribbean identity, the making of the self. And we're going to be reading several other texts after Walrond that all have to do with this idea that the Caribbean is a place, both historically and in the present, with a lot of variety and incredible diversity, different languages and cultures, people coming together from all over, with a shared experience and a really dark experience with European and American colonialism or imperialism, but with a rich body of literature and cultural practices, beliefs and cultures. And we'll be reading Walrond first, and after this, we'll do something by the author Jamaica Kincaid, born in St. John's. And then after that, we'll be reading Shakespeare's The Tempest, written in 1611, but about the Caribbean, just as at the very sort of dawn of European involvement in the Caribbean and European exploitation of the Caribbean. Shakespeare writes his play The Tempest. So we will then organize a project around The Tempest that'll take us through the end of the year. So this is the next month and a half. All of Marking Period 4 is going to be short stories, a novella, and then a play, all based around this idea of the Caribbean identity. And like I said, I'm really excited to hear from you guys about your own both senses of these texts and your own perspectives on different kinds of Caribbean cultures and experiences. So I will be sending out the prompt for reading Walrond along with this video. You'll have to read it on perusal or write a response paper. I'll give you the PDF. It's obviously hard to get a hold of physical texts. Finally, some logistics. I know this video is a little long, but a couple logistics just to hit you with before I let you go. Marking Period 3 grades. I'm going to be finishing them up tomorrow. I wanted to give you guys as much time as possible to turn in late work. Those of you who have a C or lower for this marking period will be getting a pass-fail grade from BARD. I will give you a C from Orange, and this is because so for those of you who are failing or have a D, I'm gonna give you a C because the situation is just so difficult, and I know many of you are struggling with family members who are ill. There's just no reason that you should be punished for this insane pandemic. But for those of you who have a B or higher, I will give you that grade and make sure that you get that grade from BARD as well. Next marking period, I won't do that. So for those of you who are on the edge between failing and getting a C next marking period, I will give you your actual grade in Orange. I'll do the same pass-fail thing for BARD. What that means is I've given you basically a pass for Marking Period 3 because it's been a mess, as we all know. But now that you guys are back and you're lively and you're like awake to this, we're stepping it up for the next marking period. I will be doing a video seminar, a Google Meet seminar next Tuesday. I don't think we'll do this much. Many of you responded that it wouldn't really be productive for you, but I will do one next Tuesday from 1 to 2 p.m. to talk with you about Eric Walrond. I'll post that, of course, as well. And just to give you some place, just to give you a sense of place, the things that you should be working on each week are reading right now from Walrond's Tropic Death, and then two assignments each week, and just making sure that you're in touch with me if you have any questions. But I'm going to keep that really regular. Reading and 2 assignments each week, often with a reading quiz, so that you guys can keep track of what you're doing and not get totally lost. And that's it. To the many of you who are sort of stuck at home, all of you that are stuck at home, I feel you, I'm with you. I hope that reading and thinking about some of these questions can actually be a break from your own brain for a little bit. And as always, be well, do good work, keep in touch. Take care, guys.